So I don't know where I got to there. So if I repeat, we're excited with this panel at the end, an opportunity of team members and individuals that have been at massive global companies, years of experience, but also some where they're in new spaces where it's a super exciting startup or a company that's been around for 100 years, but only got internal communications 12 months ago. So super excited. I'm going to ask each panelist if they can just introduce themselves, a little bit about their background, the company that they're at, and their team, and then we'll dive into a couple of topics. So I'm going to pass it to Natalie first.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I work at Levi's, and I've been there this week 11 years, which is kind of insane. And I started there managing the internet and have sort of worked my way up, but I still have the internet in my wheelhouse, and Alex, who's here with me, manages it today. And I've done communications basically all my life. I started, though, in newspapers and sort of ended up in corporate communications, as every young girl dreams of. But it's been fun.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Emmy Heisler. So I lead internal communications at a late-stage pre-IPO startup called Checker, based here in San Francisco. I'm part of Team CEO, which is great. I report directly to the CEO, which is, I know, a blessing in the internal comm space. I've been with Checker less than 2 years. Before that, I had an 18-year career at Apple. And the last 6.5 of those years, I led all the retail communications, all the Apple retail store and contact center employees. And then after the pandemic, I was, whoo! And so went to do something different. And it's been great. It's been really fun.
And I'm Katora, and I work for Tirani Syrups in San Leandro. They are about to be 100 years old next year, and this is the first time that they've ever had internal comms in this space, which is crazy. But I'm really excited to be here and be there, supporting to build out what internal communications looks like. I oversee IC, and then obviously events, engagement, and our office services team. I have 3 team members that report underneath me. And, I've been doing communications for all of my life as well. My background's in communications and journalism. And I've gotten to work for some really cool companies like Sephora, PacSun, Charlotte Russe, like back in the day, BCBG, and really doing and leading that retail communication space. So it's kind of cool to do something different in a kind of manufacturing setting.
So to kick us off, we've heard the topic a couple of times about aligning with leadership. We've even said resistance from leadership. I'm going to come to you as far as task force CEO. That's probably a good one to come to you first. What is that? What is that role? And I guess, how are you communicating in the fast-paced environment that you are in your company today?
Yeah, so myself and the chief of staff, we formed Team CEO. We're kind of like this little bubble around him. So we shape his week, essentially. So we meet every Monday. We go through all of his messaging needs, all of his business priorities, his schedule, and then we collaborate together on what his week should look like, who he should meet with, who he should connect with, what kind of messages should he do internally or externally. I'm head of internal, but I also guide the strategy for the external. And yeah, that's great. So so I get to be in the room, which is amazing. And then I would say, like, starting out, working with a co-founder CEO is a special breed of person. So I don't know if anyone else has worked co-founders. And so I've learned it was going to take a lot of approaching with humility and a lot of curiosity and to, slowly build his trust to where I could start to lead with him and challenge him a little bit and drive some innovation. He's deeply committed to communications, and that is also incredible and a blessing. And then it's like, okay, this has worked for you. Now let's get it to work for everyone else. So that's kind of been the journey there.
So if I can stay with you there, so with being a founder, that company's their baby, right? It's a rocket ship that they're hoping to put fuel in, but it's also their baby.
Yeah.
Pushback where they're like, no, I think we should do it this way. How have you managed that, trying to expertly guide a founder and CEO in internal communications when, again, this is their baby?
Yeah, I will say we use a lot of rocket ship emojis. So the rocket ship is a thing. Um, yeah, I think there's such like conviction in what he's decided or what the direction he wants to go because where he wants to take the business. And so I think it's two-part. One, it's approaching with a lot of curiosity. So, okay, well, tell me, have you tried this before? Tell me what happened. Where are you feeling resistance? Could we consider this? And then also, I can be the voice, the employee advocate, where I can bring some qualitative data. It's like, well, this is what I'm hearing, this is what we heard last time. And then ultimately, ultimately, just pick your battles. So it's like there's going to be some things that I just know I'm going to park it. I'll come back later, and then where are those quick wins I could get that we can just continue to build trust together, and we could get those small wins to eventually we can keep driving change.
So Natalie, if I can with yourself, so aligning with leadership, you are a new CEO as of when, which has changed there. So very much from your seat at Levi's, how has that been aligning with a new leadership?
Yes, so we got a new CEO a year ago. Our former CEO had been there 10 years and was very loved, and it was a very smooth transition. He was retiring. Our new CEO came on about a year beforehand, and so there was a smooth handoff there. But there was still an open question of how much they were going to care about, or I should say it's Michelle, was going to care about internal comms, and it was a little bit of an open question. And thankfully, she came in and she's all in. She wants to build an awesome culture. And so it is great. One of the things about Levi's that I love is although it's got a big brand name, we're a pretty small company, and so we do get a lot of access to leaders. So I do get to sit at the table with Michelle and talk about her monthly all hands or other things that are coming up. And then what I think our greatest value is bringing in the employee perspective. So knowing what the hot questions are that are going to be asked and making sure she's prepared for them, and just sort of being that pipeline to what the average employee is thinking, which she might not always have access to.
New CEO, but when we connected earlier, also new brand values, core values for a company, which has changed. So that's I imagine, brought in by previous leadership and now carrying it on with new leadership, which your team is delivering that.
Exactly. So we have what used to be called our blueprint is now called our 5-pocket plan. It's sort of our company on a page. Our strategies are pretty similar. Some of our values carried over, but we did add a new value. We did add a new purpose statement. And so really the message that we're trying to convey is like, let's keep what makes us special, but let go of what doesn't serve us anymore, to sort of build the bridge of the old CEO to the new CEO so they don't feel like we're going to lose any of the magic that we've had. We, just like Tarani, we're an old company. We were founded in 1853. And so we have an amazing legacy that we don't want to lose, but we have to keep moving into the future.
Yeah. I think having that seat and, like you said, that employee perspective helps for a new CEO, that you can be quick and nimble as opposed to a rigid strategy like we spoke about earlier. Sarah, I'm going to come to you. So 100 years, but internal communications is new. So how is aligning with leadership with what is a new department, a new specialty for a long-standing company?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I feel like they obviously hired me for a reason to build what internal communications looks like, and to really help them build this culture of communication and engagement. However, it's a slow build. I have like all these ideas, and I came guns a-blazing, like, all right, I got this, and this, and I'm going to do it this way and by this date. And it's like, no, Katora, you need to hold on for a little bit, and let's really scale back and kind of drip the messaging and drip kind of the storytelling and drip some of the strategy, so that way people can really attain it and really understand and be in the space of change management and be open to it. So.
And how are you doing this now? So I know we spoke about leading with empathy in the room earlier. What is your approach? And I think we even spoke about picking battles. What battles are you picking?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not picking all the battles. I've now kind of crafted this strategy of, and I talked a little bit about it earlier, around a learning journey and really, having brand ambassadors that I'm able to talk to and kind of understand their pain points and pressure points as it relates to communication, and really utilizing them to create my strategy and just really be kind of tapped in with the team members that we have there to kind of understand what my next move is and really look forward to building that out over 2025.
And Natalie, if I can come to you, so maybe following on from that empathy point, but with Threads, another cool name. PyNet was cool, the feed was cool, but Threads is another cool intranet name. That communication strategy to your employees, what does that look like at Levi's?
Yes, so we also have empathy as a value, and that's something that we try to bring through when we're doing our storytelling. We definitely see that people-centric stories perform a lot better when people are vulnerable. I think it permeates really through everything that we try to communicate. Even in times where we've had to do layoffs, I really am proud of the way that we've done things, where we always put people first and really try to do things right by people. But I think it's not just the content that we have or the subjects that we have, it's like the way that we communicate, right? So we try to be very conversational. We call it cheeky, not cheesy. So we put some humor in, but try not to like turn people off. It's a very delicate balance. We try to be really approachable, not a whole lot of jargon, and like really appeal to people on a human level. A great example is we were launching Yammer like a million years ago, and somebody in the service desk like clicked a button and undid it all, or I don't even know how it happened. But we just like sent out a message to everybody that was like, oops, having technical difficulties, and it was just sort of like we just try to have a really human and fun connection to people.
Like it. Mia, anything you'd add there, just around on that empathy point, or on communication strategies for yourself at Checker?
Yeah, I think we were actually talking about this at our table earlier, but I think there's a big gap, I think, that we're trying to build between leadership and employees, and I think there's bringing leadership closer and kind of having them tell stories. But one thing I've been experimenting with is actually having employees play that role. So employees like telling their stories, like having them take turns hosting the all hands. I'll like pick a different person each time. And each time I pick a different person, I have them tell their personal story about one of our values and what it means to them and how it comes to life, or shouting out one of their peers. I'll pick an MC each month, and they do their own playlist. And, so I'm trying to like bring the personality of the team into these like key points that are usually leadership communications. So I think it's by highlighting our employees' personalities and letting them tell their stories and giving them a little bit of a platform is how I've been doing it.
I love that, them taking over the all hands or the all company meeting.
Yeah, you see chat blows up when they see their friend show up as the host, and they're like, "Oh, Richard!" It's like,
emojis on the screen.
People love it. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's fun.
Katura, you have a similar, I don't know if you said employee council or what you were in the process of forming. You're able to share that with the room?
Yeah, so I'm actually working pretty closely with some key departments, and I wouldn't say trusted employees. I'll just say people that we feel are going to give us the raw, real information, and be consistent and kind of be that brand ambassador around change management, and really, utilizing them kind of in a focus group setting and kind of going on a learning journey, essentially to understand communication gaps and needs. And that's going to basically form out my entire strategy, for 2025, and really partnering with them along the way.
So we didn't have this as a point when we huddled, but it came up in the room and we spoke about planning and how rigid planning can be. And Natalie, I'm going to come to you about it. How much is planning, but also how much is being ready for that moment is probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, we make plans every year. I don't know. It's a fun exercise, and then they kind of just get thrown out the window. I mean, there's just so much that's unplanned for, because, like, going to the point of empathy is we're constantly responding to what's happening out in the world and in the environment around us. And so we do come up with our tentpole moments and sort of what we want to achieve in the year, but we need to make space for things that are not planned for, whether it's something like a pandemic. We launched our intranet. Our whole plan had been all along to launch it in March 2020. We did not plan the pandemic to happen at the same time, but you just sort of pivot and make it all happen. So I think planning, but flexibility is good.
Stars align pretty well there. We spoke earlier about starting from zero, which kind of stemmed on from what Couture's doing. I mean, if starting from zero from your experience at Apple and now Checker, what would you say to the room? Like, what is that first step in starting from zero with
Starting from zero.
communications?
Oh gosh. Well, I think comms folks. I think we're action oriented. Like we want to get in, we want to help. It's like essentially our audience is our own peers, especially if it's internal comms. It's about people. So I could speak to Apple when the pandemic started. We made the call to like close all of our stores in one night. It was like a call, went to like almost midnight. Made the decision the next day all of our stores were going to be closed worldwide. And I think looking back, I think the thing around that is, I think I wish if I could think about going back in time, I think it would have been yes, jump in, and then like quickly get to how can we take what is our usual run the business, product launches, seasonal campaigns, operations, and then use that same structure for crisis when crisis became because it was so all-consuming and it was so hands-on. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I think it was very like,
Good insight.
yeah, I think, I don't even remember what your original question was actually.
Problem at all.
I think it was ask for help immediately, like get it in because it's so easy to jump in and then get help.
So the point was starting from zero, and maybe not for yourself, Natalie, on starting from zero, but 11 years at Levi's. Company's probably changed. Logo stayed the same, or is it, if it's changed a little bit, I'm sorry.
No,
But 11 years of internal comms. What have those changes been? What's been that secret sauce just to keep everything together?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been evolutions in technology and in just some of the sophistication. I actually think the challenge in being there 11 years is to not do the same thing you did the year before and to force yourself to think differently and to be like, you can't just hide under a rock and say, what is TikTok, like I like to do. And, something that didn't work 2 years ago might work now, doing it a little bit differently. I think there's also been maybe a greater acceptance of testing and learning and failing, which makes it a little bit easier. So we're trying different things and seeing what works. But it's just, there's so many things in our world that we do every single year, right? Whether it's like benefits enrollments or your performance, whatever. And it's really easy just to pull out the old playbook. But how can we do things differently?
But there is a culture that it's okay to fail. It's okay to try things.
Well, we're getting there.
We're on the journey.
Yes. I mean, we're in some ways we're a very traditional, well-established company.
Yeah.
We're not the same as our neighbors on Silicon Valley. But we're trying to, like with AI and everything, just be a little more okay with that.
Set me up so well for where I'd like the last kind of talking point to be. 2025 in the future, and you've said AI. It's been a topic throughout, I think, majority of presentations today. Couture, coming to you in the end first. 2025 and beyond, we know you want to build a rocket ship of an internal comms department there, but
Sure do.
what is it? But also, what do you think we all need to be aware of with things changing so quickly?
Yeah, I think it was Amit said it. Just being open to change and adapting to change. I think that we are going into a year of some uncertainty. So I think some of the messaging might be a little bit different. And I think, I have some ideas around people storytelling, but also how does this then impact our team members as well? I think a lot of times too, when I'm thinking about just communication in general, just working really closely with our SLT and kind of our CEO and making sure that their messages are being cascaded down too. I think I will definitely look for in 2025.
Mia, yourself, 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, we also had talked about this. There's a shout out to this table. 2025 for me is going to be the year of the manager. I think, again, being in this co-founder, late-stage startup, there's been such a tendency and such a habit and a pattern of CEO to everyone. And so, really empowering managers, recognizing them for what they are, not only as your next generation of leaders, but that they are also your best communication channel. Because if there's anyone that employee trusts, it's their direct line manager. So empowering them more often, and creating communications that are specifically for them, that knowing how much time they have to consume, which is not a lot, knowing how much they're often asked to do, which is a lot, and then how much we need them to learn and grow as much as we need them to grow and develop their own teams.
Your point earlier, though, I think of like it's almost like they've been jumped over in communications, and we spoke a lot about employee engagement. Having an engaged group of middle managers, or your point earlier from store owners or store managers, that can be, and focusing on them.
Yeah.
How did you do that effectively at Apple, or even like what you did in Apple that you're looking to bring to Checker for middle management being a focus?
Yeah, so Apple had this long tradition of the employees getting together before the store opens. It's called daily download. Has anyone ever worked in an Apple retail store? Yeah, so it's called a daily download. The whole team gets together before the doors open. And so it's a moment, it's like a rally moment. What we did is we realized this is gold. They are all getting together every morning. And so being really intentional around the direction we were giving to the leaders for making sure they can still honor the culture of their store. They still have their own identity, personality. What happens in Hong Kong is going to be very different than London. But we would give them 3 things. So you've throughout this week, at least talk about those 3 things. Talk about the iPhone upgrade program, talk about AppleCare, and talk about welcoming customers and what that looks like. So that was probably our most effective thing because it was an in-person gathering. It was something they did anyway, and we just figured out how to use it to whatever our strategy was for that quarter. At Checker, I think, one, it was a big-time advocacy for the last year that we should pay attention to managers. And so now that battle's kind of won, it's now creating a special email that's just for them, but only when we need to do it. So it doesn't have to be every month, it doesn't have to be every quarter. It's like we actually have things to say, that's when we do it, giving them information we need, and now doing a quarterly manager gathering where we actually get them together every quarter. It's very intentional, it's part development, it's a lot of change management, and just letting them in and empowering them and giving them a chance to give us feedback. So later we can go back to them and say, remember when we did the all hands? It was so different from when we first showed it to you because you gave us that feedback. It impacted how we talked to the rest of the company. And for them to see that their voice does matter has been quite powerful. So now we've got it planned for every quarter of 2025.
So the point on the almost like daily sprints, we've got a global manufacturing customer that does similar where they still keep their global sprints for, say, the manufacturing plants, but then they'll post the same points that the middle manager was relaying on their intranet, just so it is that source of truth. It's only maybe like 8-10 bullet points, but still for that daily consistency of I missed the meeting or I wasn't properly paying attention, so I can go look later. But the impact of that, many customers doing similar.
That's great. Yeah.
Natalie, last close, 2025 and beyond, Levi's, yourself, your team. How does it look?
So for our team, we do a survey every other year on our communications channels. So we get feedback on the channels that they like, what they want more about from topics. And so we just got those survey results back. So now we have to digest them and figure out how we're going to respond to that feedback and implement that into our communications. And then, as I shared, we have a new CEO, and we just launched a lot of sort of foundational strategic messaging last year, and it can't be one and done. We have to figure out how to embed it through storytelling and other channels. But one of our big pivots in talking about retail is that, we're traditionally a wholesale company, so we're making this pivot to be more focused on our retail and e-commerce, our direct-to-consumer channels. And although we don't have ownership of speaking to retail teams specifically, I think that that's the way that we're evolving, and we need to figure out how we're going to start moving that direction. So I think for us, it's thinking like, how do we write shorter? How do we write just crisper, clearer, no jargon, just like something that would appeal to our retail employees, our distribution center employees, as well as our corporate employees. And I think our corporate employees would very much appreciate it if we wrote that way as well. So I think just that's the future that we're going toward, and we need to start going that direction.
Amazing. Thank you. Can we please give this group a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you for being so open.